So how's it going, everyone? Thanks for stopping by and checking out my channel. So for today's video, I wanted to go over all the different starting backgrounds and skills and the 3 different traits you can choose from when you're creating your character in Starfield. So as of recording this video, I have over 130 hours put into Starfield, and I've experienced a pretty big chunk of the game. I've done a lot of side missions, I've done a lot of exploring, and I'd say by this point, I have a pretty good idea of what skills are worth investing into and what skills you should probably invest in first. And when it comes to Bethesda games, as soon as you start off, they can be a bit overwhelming. I mean, there's a lot to do, there's a lot of skills, there's a lot of abilities, and it's just a lot to take in. So I just wanted to give my thoughts on each of the background skills and traits that I feel are probably going to help you the most during your adventures. Now, don't take this video the wrong way. This isn't me telling you how you should play the game. Like, obviously, you can pick whatever you want to do. Everybody's going to have a different playthrough. But based on my 130 hours of playing the game, I noticed that I tended to use some skills and abilities more than others. And some situations just pop up a lot more frequently than others. So the goal of this video is to hopefully make your life just a little bit easier when it comes to choosing those background traits when you're creating your character in Starfield. All right, so jumping right into things, first you have to choose your background. Now, I personally went with the Cyber Runner class. This gives you a starting skill in stealth, security, and theft. Now, I have to say, I don't regret these 3 perks at all. When it came to my playthrough, I did a lot of stealing. When it comes to security, there are a ton of locked chests and locked doors and just locked everything. You're going to come across a ton of things that need unlocked, like way more in Starfield than you ever experienced in like Fallout 4 or Skyrim. The amount of lockpicks that need to be unlocked is insane. So I definitely recommend the security perk. And if you don't choose the security perk as your background, at least make sure it's probably one of the first perks that you decide to unlock. And then for theft and stealth, they kind of go hand in hand. You know, the more stealthy you are, the easier it's going to be to steal things. And you need a lot of money, and stealing is one of the best ways that you can earn money. But for Beast Hunter, these skills are okay. Honestly, I didn't put very many perks into my weapon skills at all in my playthrough because I didn't feel like I needed it. Like, my weapons and stuff throughout the game are so good, and I've been playing on very hard mode, which is the hardest difficulty there is, and I've not really struggled too much with the combat, so I've not invested very many points into like ballistics per se. And honestly, I feel like you would just be extremely overpowered if you did do that. So as appealing as the ballistic skill might be, honestly, you don't really need it right away. Fitness is actually a good perk to use because you're going to be running around everywhere and you're going to be running out of stamina constantly. So fitness might be a pretty decent skill, but the gastronomy, I would just avoid that because you're not going to be cooking that much. At least I didn't. You find so much medical supplies and food throughout the game that you're not really going to be using that much, in my opinion. But hey, I mean, some people love to cook in Skyrim and stuff. There's entire playthroughs just based on survival. If that's your thing, go for it, but I didn't use it at all. Then for Bouncer, we have boxing, security, and fitness. Like I said, security is a good one, fitness is a good one. Boxing, I mean, boxing is just if you want to go around punching people and, you know, use melee skills. So if you're a melee person, maybe go with the Bouncer. Bounty Hunter, this is actually a good one too. The boost pack training is a must-have, and starting off with it right away is a huge plus. Targeting control systems is really good for flying, and piloting is really good for flying. Now, there's actually 3 different tiers of spaceships in this game. There's an A, B, and C tier. C tier is like the really big, massive, like cargo ships, and like think of like Star Destroyer kind of level ships. Not exactly the size of a Star Destroyer, but like C-class ships are the big ships. And you have to have 4 points put into piloting to be able to pilot those really big ships. And it took me so long to get piloting level 4 that it wasn't until I hit probably 110 hours before I was finally able to fly a Class C spaceship. So this is actually a pretty good one to use because getting 1 perk of piloting right off the get-go is just going to be a huge advantage when it comes to flying. So Bounty Hunter has my seal of approval. Then for Chef, it has scavenging, which is pretty decent. Dueling has to do with melee combat and then, you know, making food and stuff. I would avoid the Chef. The only decent perk here is scavenging. I mean, melee combat, I didn't really use melee combat in this game because there's so many things that can kill you, and normally you're facing like 10 to 20 enemies at one time. You know, swords and knives and stuff I didn't really dabble with. Like if you're a melee type person, then you know this might be decent if you like melee stuff, but I wouldn't get this unless you want to focus on a complete melee build. Then we have combat medic, pistol certification, medicine, and wellness. Wellness just increases your overall health. Medicine makes, you know, using different medicines more effective. And pistol certification makes your pistols, you know, a little bit better. This one's okay. I wouldn't really recommend it, but I also don't really have anything against it. It's just kind of meh. Cyber Runner is the one I went with, so I'm a little biased here, but I use the crap out of all these skills. They're extremely handy. Then for cybernetics, medicine, security, lasers, these are all pretty decent. Laser weapons are pretty good. Diplomat, this one's actually probably one of the better ones. Persuasion has come in handy so much for me in my playthrough. There are so many opportunities to persuade people in this game. It's like every other conversation, you're going to have some sort of opportunity to persuade someone, and persuading people can save you money. It can talk you out of combat in case you just don't want to engage in combat. Like, persuasion is a must-have skill. It's amazing.
There's nothing to tell you. Get it through your skull. Oh my god, enough! I'll tell you what I know, if it'll get you to leave.
Then for the other two, commerce and wellness. Commerce is really good at helping you make money as well, and like I said earlier, you're going to need a lot of money. I'd say the average mission probably gets you anywhere from like 2,000 credits to about 5,000 or 6,000. It kind of just depends. And expensive ships can be close to like 300 to 400,000 credits, and they get extremely expensive. So you are going to need a lot of money. So this is probably one of the better choices. And then for wellness, having extra health is always pretty good to come in handy too. Then Explorer, we have lasers, astrodynamics, and surveying. These are perks literally just for surveying stuff, for like, you know, going to planet and scanning things. These perks are handy a little bit later on once you get into like base building and stuff, but for a while you don't even need to use any of like the scanning stuff. You don't need to go out and mine resources because you're just not going to be using the base building stuff to its full potential until late game. So honestly, I would avoid the Explorer class. Then Gangster, shotguns, boxing, and theft. I would avoid that unless you just really love punching people and shotguns. But honestly, some of the shotguns in this game are so good, you don't even really need the shotgun perk to make it even stronger. Homesteader, we have weightlifting, which gives you extra carry weight. That is a good perk. I have weightlifting level 4. Trust me, you're going to run out of carry weight nonstop. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000 carry weight or 100 carry weight. You're always going to run out of carry weight. But having more of it lets you carry more items, more healing stuff, more weapons, more armor. Weightlifting is a good perk. Surveying, not a good perk. Geology also isn't really a good perk early on because with geology, it's just mining more resources from rocks. Industrialist, we have persuasion, security, and research methods. I've unlocked all of these perks. All of these perks are handy. Research methods helps you upgrade different things like weapons and your outposts, and just you have to have research to unlock these new tiers of weapon mods and armor mods and all that stuff. So research methods is a good perk to have. Industrialist, I would recommend this class. This is a pretty good starting class. Long Hauler gives you more carry weight, piloting, and ballistic weapon systems for your ships. This is also a good one. I would recommend this one as well. These are all good starting perks. Pilgrim, scavenging, you get more money and stuff from scavenging items, surveying, and gastronomy. I would definitely avoid this class. You're just not going to benefit much from being a pilgrim. Professor, I would also avoid Professor because astrodynamics and geology, you're not going to benefit much from those perks early on. Ronin, dueling, stealth, and scavenging. This one actually might be pretty handy because you get more resources from scavenging. You have a little bit more stealth, so you're harder to see when you're crouched. And dueling, like you can combine stealth with dueling, and you'll do more damage with sneak attacks with melee weapons. So that one might be okay if you want to do like a stealth, like assassin build. Sculptor, medicine, geology, and persuasion. I would avoid this one just because medicine and geology just aren't going to help you that much in the grand scheme of things. Soldier, you get better fitness, better ballistics, and boost pack training. This one's actually pretty good because, like I said, boost pack training, if you don't get it in your starting class, I highly recommend that's one of the first perks you unlock anyway. So boost pack training is good. Ballistics you know, it's okay. It's just an overall damage increase to ballistic weapons. And then fitness lets you run longer before you run out of breath. So I would recommend the soldier class. The space scoundrel is also a good one, persuasion, piloting, and pistol certification. I would only focus on this though if you plan on using a lot of pistols, but overall space scoundrel's pretty good. Xenobiologist, lasers, surveying, and fitness. If it wasn't for the surveying skill in the middle, I would recommend this one too, but, you know, surveying just isn't that handy. Then we have File Not Found, Wellness, Ballistics, and Piloting. This one's actually also another good one. You know, wellness gives you more health, Ballistics gives you more damage, and Piloting lets you fly better spaceships. So that is everything for the backgrounds. Now let's talk about traits. Now there's a lot of these traits that, you know, some of them are kind of meh, and there's a couple gimmick ones. I tested all of the gimmick ones in my playthrough. I went with the Dream Home, I went with Kid Stuff, and I went with the, where is it at? Hero Worshipped. So I went with these three because they were just kind of gimmicky. The Kid Stuff gives you parents, the Hero Worshipped gives you the Adoring Fan, and the Dream Home gives you a custom home. So I'll talk about all three of those in a bit, but first up's Alien DNA. You start with increased health and oxygen, but healing and food items aren't as effective. I would avoid that. The fact that healing and food items aren't as effective is a huge deal breaker for me. In this game, I was popping so many healing stems like left and right, and food already doesn't heal you that much. Food just like will restore like maybe 3 or 4 health points, and it does like barely anything to your overall health. And making it even worse, just I would avoid Alien DNA. Trust me, you're not gonna like the fact that healing stuff isn't gonna heal you as much. Then Empath. Performing actions your companions like will result in a temporary increase in combat effectiveness, but performing actions they don't like will have the precise opposite effect. This one I would avoid too, because there's a lot of things that make certain companions angry. If you do any sort of stealing, or if you kill someone innocent, or if you do anything shady at all, if you board a ship and try to like steal from a ship in space, that's gonna make them angry. There's a lot of things that make your companions angry. So honestly, I would kind of avoid this unless you just want to be perfectly nice through your entire playthrough. Then we have Extrovert. Exerting yourself uses less oxygen when adventuring with human companions, but more when adventuring alone. If you plan on using a companion throughout your entire playthrough, like I do, like I always use a companion basically as like a pack mule so they can carry more stuff for me, Extrovert is a pretty good perk. I didn't go with Extrovert, but looking back at it, I would probably give up the Dream Home for Extrovert or something. Freestar Collective Settler, Freestar Collective Dialogue options, and better rewards for submissions given by the faction, but crime bounty towards other factions is greatly increased. Now there's a lot of stuff you can do with the Freestar Collective, but at some point you're probably going to interact with pretty much all of the factions, and just choosing one faction isn't really worth it, because you're going to have Freestar Collective missions that are going to specifically make the other factions angry, and when you do that, it's going to be even harder to like do missions for the other factions if you purposefully piss them off because you're working with the Freestar Collective. So I would avoid any of these very specific perks that make other factions angry unless you're on like a second or third playthrough and you know what you want to get into. But making this big of a commitment to just the Freestar Collective before even starting the game is a pretty big deal, so I would avoid this perk. Then we have Introvert. Exerting yourself uses less oxygen when adventuring alone, so it's the opposite of Extrovert. If you like to be by yourself, go with this skill. So then we have Neon Street Rat. You gain access to special dialogue options and better rewards for some missions on Neon, so this is pretty much the same as the Freestar Collective perk. I honestly would avoid this until you get your bearings and you play through the game, and maybe you want to do a second playthrough, because you guys might get into the game and realize you don't like the City of Neon, you don't like those missions, so what good does it do you to have a perk based on the City of Neon if you don't like that city? Then we have Raised Enlightened. You gain access to special chest full of items in the House of Enlightened in New Atlantis, but lose access to the Sanctum Universium chest. So same thing kind of goes for these specific like chest perks. I don't know what these do. They give you a special chest full of items that's very specific to one faction. Based off of everything I've seen so far in the game in my 130 some hours, odds are this chest they give you is probably just going to have like maybe some ammo, some healing supplies. Like it's not going to be a very crazy over the top award by any means, because they're just not going to do that. To me, there's nothing in these chests except for like a legendary weapon or something that would make this worth worth it. So I would definitely avoid these very specific background traits. Like this one giving you a specific chest in a specific location, I would avoid that. Then we have Raise Universal. It's pretty much the same as Raise Enlightened, but it's for the Sanctum Universium. I would avoid that too. Then we have Serpent's Embrace. Grav jumping provides a temporary boost to health and oxygen, but health and oxygen are lowered if you don't continue jumping regularly, like an addiction. This is just a gimmick trait, like, jumping around constantly. This might be cool if you want to use your jetpack all the time. If you want a jump pack, like jump boost build, they have different jetpacks in this game. Some are meant for height and some are meant for being agile and like dodging and stuff in midair. If you're constantly planning on jumping with your jump pack and using your jump pack in combat, this could be a decent perk. But if you don't plan on using your jump pack pretty much all the time, this doesn't sound worth it because it's probably just annoying to jump everywhere. Then we have Spaced. Health and oxygen are increased when in space, but decreased when on the surface. Oh, I definitely avoid this because you spend way more time on surface of planets than you do in space. We have Taskmaster. Occasionally, if you have crew trained in a certain ship system, that system will automatically repair itself to full health whenever it is damaged below 50%. However, all crew cost twice as much to hire. So this perk might actually be a pretty decent one to use, especially when you get into the later game and you have a very expensive ship and you have to have, a lot of crew members. If you have a chance to immediately heal whatever is damaged, that is a huge deal when it comes to space combat. So I would actually recommend getting this perk if you are interested in a lot of like flying and ship-to-ship combat and stuff. Then we have Terra Firma. Health and oxygen are increased when on the surface, but decreased when you're in space. This is the perk that I would get if you're going to choose between the two, just because you spend way more time on the surface of planets than you do doing like space combat. We have the United Colonies native. It gives you better dialogue options and rewards for some missions for the United Colonies. This is the same as the perks above, but for the United Colonies, I would avoid this one as well. And then we have Wanted. Now, I was actually thinking about getting Wanted on my playthrough, and now that I have played 130 hours, I kind of regret not choosing Wanted, because you occasionally have some armed mercenaries that will show up and try to kill you, but being cornered gives you an edge. When your health is low, you do extra damage. Now, having these armed mercenaries show up, they're only going to show up like if you're randomly exploring and stuff. And honestly, that's going to add a bit more excitement to the game. Like if you're just exploring on a planet and you're mining or whatever, having some random dude show up in a ship to kill you, that's going to give you something to fight. That's going to give you loot. Like you kill these mercenaries, they're going to have weapons and ammo and medical supplies. And not to mention, you have this permanent buff of doing extra damage when your health is low. That's going to be throughout your entire playthrough. Yes, I would definitely recommend the Wanted perk. It's worth it. Unless these bounty hunters are showing up like every 2 seconds, I would 100% get the Wanted trait. It's probably more than worth the trade-off. All right, so now let's talk about the 3 perks that I did choose. We have Dream Home, Hero Worshipped, and Kid Stuff. So first up, let's talk about Dream Home. So you get a luxurious customizable home on a peaceful planet, but it comes with a $125,000 credit mortgage with Gao Bank. Now, honestly, I'm a little hit and miss on the Dream Home. Now, I've used the Dream Home. I use it to store a lot of crap, but honestly, especially when it comes to outpost building, and there's so many homes that you get already just by playing the game, I think you can have an apartment or a home in pretty much most of the major cities. You have your ship, you can store all your crap in your ship if you want. Like, there's just so many places for you to store your loot and your gear that the Dream Home, you can customize the inside with decorations and it's pretty spacious, but the Dream Home, honestly, I would probably, going back if I could choose again, the Dream Home I would just avoid. Now, if you're the type of player that doesn't want to get into outpost building, you have no interest in, building your own outpost, the Dream Home might be a good option because you have the option of either paying $500 every time you go into your home, which is honestly pretty cheap, or you can just go to the bank and straight up pay off the $125,000 loan, and then you own the home forever. So I would only consider the Dream Home if you don't plan on getting 5 million other houses, or if, maybe you just want to collect every house in the game. This is a decent player home. It's just I have so many options to store my loot and stuff, and I have my own outpost at this point that the Dream Home just it's not really worth it to me. I kind of wish I didn't choose the dream home. Then for hero worshipped, we have the adoring fan. Now, I went with the adoring fan because, you know, Oblivion, he's a meme. I thought he would be funny, and he actually turns out to be pretty interesting. Now, early on in the game, he's just really corny and cheesy, and he says just the dumbest lines, but that's kind of what makes it hilarious, is because this guy just kisses your ass no matter what you do. And the more you play the game and the stronger you get, the more you kind of realize, hey, I am a badass. It's kind of nice that this guy kisses the ground that I walk on. So, not to mention that he also comes with the perks where he has a little bit of increased carry weight compared to other companions, and he has really no moral compass. Like, you can do anything and he does not care. So if you want a companion that doesn't care if you do some piracy or stealing or any of the shady stuff, he will be your fan no matter what. He's there for you through and through, and he will always just have some sort of funny voice line or something. And, you know, I don't regret him. I think he's a pretty good addition. I would recommend the adoring fan companion. And if for some reason you don't want him, you can always just assign him to like an outpost or to one of your ships, or just get rid of him for whatever reason. But I like keeping him around for extra carry weight, and he actually ended up being a pretty good companion.
Oh, I'm not that interesting. I like coffee, I like tea, and I like worshipping the ground you walk on. Well, you technically don't walk. Angels tend to glide.
And then lastly, we have the Kid Stuff perk, which is where you get parents, but you automatically send 2% of your credits home to them every week. Now, this is a perk that I was a little on the fence about. I didn't think that this was going to be that good of a perk at all. I saw the Starfield Direct and they introduced the parents, and I thought that this was just going to be kind of dorky, but it actually ended up being a pretty interesting perk because your parents do more than just sit there in their apartment. They actually can give you different things, and they show up in the world in different places in your playthrough. For me, they showed up in a nightclub, they showed up at a store in a random city. Like, they will just show up randomly in different locations, and you'll bump into them and they'll have different things to say to you. And it's actually pretty funny and interesting, and they'll give you different items. Like, one time I went to visit them, and my dad gave me an old like World War II pistol or something from like old Earth. So that was pretty cool. The mom gave me like your grandma's old set of armor, which is like a unique piece of armor that I've not found anywhere else in the game yet. So I got a unique pistol, I got a unique armor set, and then at one point your dad is like, hey son, I won a poker match and I got a lot of money and I bought you a spaceship. So my dad just gave me a free spaceship. So it wasn't that good of a spaceship, so I just sold it off for like $13,000, but that's $13,000 or a free spaceship. And you also get a bunch of random stuff, like I think they have a kid's backpack that gives you like a little bit of extra carry weight. Like you actually get some fun little additions and different rewards from having the Kid Stuff perk. So I would recommend the Kid Stuff perk. So out of the three that I chose, I would say the Dream Home isn't really worth it. I would definitely go with the Hero Worship, the Kid Stuff, and then probably Wanted would be the three perks that I would pick if I could go back and re-choose them. But that is going to do it for everything in this video, guys. Hopefully it helped you out. Like I said before at the start of the video, I'm not telling you guys how to play the game. You can play it however you want. Everyone's going to have completely different experiences, but based off of everything I've seen in my 130 hours, these are the background perks and traits that I would recommend based off of everything I've seen and experienced. So if you made it this far into the video, I appreciate it. I know this is a pretty long one, but hopefully it helps you guys out. If you guys are new here, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications, because I'm going to be doing a lot of Starfield videos. The goal is to be like everyone's #1 source for Starfield content. So if you don't want to miss out on any future Starfield videos, be sure to hit the bell for notifications. And that is going to do it for me, guys, and I will talk to you all in the next video.